Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode here at Catholic Table Talk Podcast. This is the podcast where everything Catholic is on the table. So happy that you're spending some of your week with us again here at the table. Episode 60 already. I thank you for continuing support because we're at episode 60 and it wouldn't have been possible without your continued support. Don't forget, if you're new to Catholic Table Talk, or if you're still watching, from if you're still a good listener and watching us every week, make sure you like, comment, and share and subscribe to all of our channels and pages, as well as to, like I say, share it with others, because that's just why we're here for. Just to share the good news, share the gospel, share the Catholic faith, out in the world. So like, comment, subscribe, and share it over all the platforms. And we are continuing to grow, so that is an awesome sign. If you have a show or speaker request or feedback or anything else, any questions about the show, please email catholictt@gmail.com. The official email of Catholic Table Talk Podcast is catholictt@gmail.com is the email. So this week I'm all by myself again for episode 60. We'll have some great more speakers on the show in the coming weeks, but for now I'll talk about Catholic inventors and what one Catholic priest did. Now, you might know, like I mentioned in the past couple episodes and past couple live streams, is the religious part of America, and also just most importantly of the Catholic faith, is being under attack by lots and lots of people from different. It's either different religions or just atheists in general. It's just a lot. It's a tough time to be a Catholic because it's you gotta keep the hope up. It's a really tough thing to do. But like Jesus said, it wasn't gonna be easy to follow him. So, but like I said, you might see in the news it's getting people are just really, really getting at the Catholic faith, especially now with post Roe versus Wade being overturned. A lot of people are really, really angry against the church about that. And a lot of people might come up to you and say, what has the Catholic Church or people for who are Catholic or maybe Catholic priests, what have they done for society? What have they? And that's kind of a dumb question, isn't it? But we might come up with you and just ask you like, well, all these great inventions we had, and you Catholics just been more focused on religion, and you guys don't trust the science, you guys don't do the science, you guys, all this other stuff, okay? You guys are kind of your own religion, you guys don't really make anything, invent anything, nothing like that. And I want to share with you a story or two about what Catholic priests and lay people have done for the world. What have they invented and what have they made? There's a long list. Of course, it's from youcatholic.com, as well as there's 150 Catholic inventors at the National Catholic Register blog, made up a few years ago. I'll have the links in the description. I'm not going to list 150 because that'll be a whole show just talking about the names and just what they did. I'm more talking about the ones that jumped out at me, but mostly we're going to talk about the bulletproof vest and the man who made it. So, bear with me on this one. I'm probably won't get all the words right. Hopefully I speak loud and clear, but here we go. This is from George Ryan. This post was just released, or a blog, or article you call it. It's a blog from youcatholic.com. It's when a Catholic priest invented a bulletproof vest. Way back in 1897, Father Casimir Ziegler was shot in Chicago on purpose. Temporarily kneeled over, he got up and raised his hands to show he survived, unscathed, much to the cheer of surprised spectators who were watching. 15 years prior, he began experimenting with hopes of making a bulletproof cloth. He tried different combinations of steel shavings, moss, hair, and other sorts of materials to no avail. After the mayor of Chicago was assassinated in 1893, his efforts were renewed. Father Ziegler's breakthrough came when he read a post-mortem medical report in which a silk handkerchief significantly reduced a bullet's penetration. He needed a special way to weave the silk, lest it be immovable, to be an immovable mat rather than just a true fabric for clothing. Visiting weaver mills in Australia and Germany, he was able to produce a 4-pile bulletproof vest that was just an eighth of an inch thick with the help of a Polish Edison they call him, Jan Scratchovich. The new weave ended up saving the life of King Alfonso XIII of Spain when a bomb exploded near his carriage, but did no harm to him as it was coated in special armor made from the bulletproof fabric. When Father Ziegler returned to the United States and offered a demonstration of the bulletproof vest, the occasion was recorded in the Brooklyn Eagles newspaper on October the 9th, 1902. And the article says, 3 grades of fabric. Police, Navy Yard, and militia officers arrived to a local test range for tomorrow night. And the article states, the Reverend Casimir Ziegler of St. Stanislaus Roman Catholic Church in Chicago, the largest Polish church in the country, there being about 40,000 souls in the parish. I mean, you might hear of parishes, like in our cluster here of Mary's ACC, you hear one parish might have like 2,000 households for that parish, and I think the smallest is like 50 households. Not less households, but they have 40,000 people, of course. It's in Chicago, which was big back then, but 40,000 people in that parish. And has invented a bulletproof cloth which has stood the test of many shots of our calibers fired at our distances. Mr. Ziegler is a young priest about 35 years of age. He began experimenting on bulletproof cloth 15 years ago using steel, shavings, moss, hair, etc., like you mentioned, but nothing stood the test until he made use of silk. Our early experiments produced an inflexible cloth, which was more in the natural of a coat of mail. After the assassination of the mayor, Carter Harrison, in Chicago, Mr. Ziegler renewed his efforts to find a bulletproof material and determined to use silk. A problem, however, presented itself in securing the perfection of weave, and this was not made possible until he visited Vienna and Aachen in Germany, where there are great weaving mills manned by Polacks, who are renowned for their silk and weaving. A fabric produced there, which is 1/8 of an inch in thickness, 4-ply possesses perfection of weave, and all efforts to penetrate it with bullets have proven futile. The Reverend Mr. Ziegler himself submitted to a test in Chicago. He put a vest on the material and an expert revolver shot fired at the vest at 8 paces, and no one of the bullets at all disturbed Mr. Ziegler. The weight of the fabric is a half a pound to the square foot. It is soft and flexible so that all kinds of garments can be manufactured out of it. The most practical form of garment is a vest, which can be worn at all times as a protection to life. The second kind of fabric is a simple textile goods. Being an inch thick and weighing 2 pounds to a square foot, this fabric resists and wards off all kinds of leaden bullets from military rifles at any distance. Now, just take a little break from this. Just think how this is back in 1897. This is back when, right before the 20th century, America is really just, starting to get more civilized. The Wild West is about over. The 20th century is just around the corner. But there's huge crime in these huge cities. And, just think of how great this is. How great it is today, but just like how great it was back in 1897. For military rifles at any distance. Dum-dum bullets at a range of 400 yards and steel bullets at a distance of 800 yards. The third kind of fabric is also silk textile 1 inch thick, coated on the outside with a steel armor 1/16 of an inch in thickness. The silk and steel together weigh 4 pounds to a square foot, and the armor wards off steel bullets from military rifles at a range of 250 yards. The same steel bullets can be warded off at a range of 150 yards, but the steel armor must be increased to a thickness of 1/10 of an inch at a range of 50 yards to 1/8 of an inch. Tests of this fabric have been made in a number of places, and they have all been successful. One of the most important was at Fort Sheridan. Craig Jorgensen bullets were fired at a distance of 200 and 300 yards. At the 300-yard range, the bullet perforated the steel and embedded itself in the second thickness of the cloth. At the range of 200 yards, the bullet pierced an entire shield, but the steel metal of the bullet stopped at the third thickness. A test was made at Chelsea, Mass. Before Chief of Police Hudson, who fired a shot at the vest 7 paces away with a .44 caliber pistol, but the bullet failed to pierce the cloth. C.W. Wilder, who is exhibiting the armor cloth of Brooklyn, has arranged for a test in the Mogdalek Cathedral building, to which the police, Navy Yard officials, militia officers, and and others will be invited. A 22 caliber pistol, a 32 caliber revolver, and a 44 caliber Russian revolver, the largest mag, will be fired. Smokeless powder will be used. Dr. Ashley A. Weber, who is known as one of the great marksmen in the country, will fire the shots. Mr. Wilder, who has made an offer of $500 reward if Dr. Weber succeeds in penetrating the fabric. It is expected that Reverend Mr. Ziegler will be present in person to wear the vest. So that's the end of the article from You Catholic and Let It Sing. 1897, Father Cosmo Ziegler was shot in Chicago on purpose, and the bullets did not hurt him at all because the bulletproof vest stopped him. So thanks to Father Cosmo Ziegler, who at the time was 35 years old, thanks to him, today, throughout the world, we have the bulletproof vest. So that is one Catholic, and he's a Catholic priest, but one Catholic man who made a very useful material, or item that we still use today, and a lot of people rely on it, especially law enforcement. So, very, very cool. That is the history of the bulletproof vest. I'll have the description in the comments, and hopefully you learn something, because they go really in detail of how the bulletproof vest is made. So maybe you can make one for yourself if you really get the origin. So now we go to the National Catholic Registrar blog, which is they say it's a short list of Catholic scientists Like I said, it's 150 people. I'm not going to name all of them because it's 150 people. It's a show of itself, just naming 150 people. I mean, which is great. I'm not saying anything bad about it. But I'm not going to list all 150 for yours for the sake of time and for your sake. I don't think you want to listen to me try to pronounce the names and what they all did for 150 times. When people say that the church is anti-science, show them this list, it says. And this is from Angelo Stengel. I did a couple of articles from him, and this is from, let's say, a few years back. And we'll kind of wing through the overview, and then we'll kind of go through some of the list. What would you say to someone who insisted Americans never landed on the moon? Probably the same thing you would to someone who insisted that World War II never happened. Someone who makes outrageous claims that go against logic and historical reality are inevitably spotted by the people who think themselves too knowledgeable to read books or too smart to bother thinking rationally. There is more truthless than truth to them. Everyone is allowed to have their own opinion, but no one is allowed to have their own facts. I have no pity for someone who hopes to bully someone and then finds himself in over his head with nothing intelligent to say. When atheists insist, without the beliefs of sanctity, sobriety, and orderation, that Catholics are somehow anti-science, I'm quick to force them to listen to a desperately needed lecture as to why they are intolerably and patiently wrong. My lecture usually does them very, very little good, unless good means infatuating the budget atheist in question. But either way, I've created a check in their armor through which the Holy Spirit might be able to penetrate. After all, as Martin Luther King Jr. often reminded us, nothing in all the world is more dangerous than science ignorance and cautionary stupidity. The faithful are that thin Catholic line in the sand that the sincerely ignorant and consequently stupid, and other enemies of the church won't be able to cross. When fundamentalist atheists insist the church is anti-science, I lay some knowledge on them. For those unfamiliar with the church's support and defense of modern science include the incredible accomplishments of lay Catholics. I would recommend pursuing the following list and its links, which are taken from Wikipedia. So if you click on the names, if you click on the article, you read down and get to the list of names. Every name, every person on the list is highlighted in blue, and that link takes you to Wikipedia, even though Wikipedia is not a great source, but that's a different story for a different time. But it's basically good. It's good for overview of the person and what they did. So if you click on the names of the 150 inventors, you can see where they came from, who they were, and that stuff. This is a list of famous lay Catholic scientists, and the second article in the series for those interested in the fourth article about famous Catholic clerk. Scientists, please follow this link. So they list them 1 through 150. I don't know. I think this is kind of his top 150. So yeah. So I'm just gonna list out a couple that I will throw out there that I kind of stood out on me. Let's see. Henry Barjaco, that number 12, 1852 from 1908. Awarded Nobel Prize in Physics for his discovery of radioactivity. So that's a big one. John Desmond Boyle at 14, 1901 through 1971. British pioneer in X-ray, cosmography, and molecular biology, molecular biology. I can say that okay. And then you go down the list, and at 23, Albert. I like this name. Albert Brzezinski. C 1445 to C 1497. The first to state that the moon moves in an eclipse. Really? So that came from a Catholic layperson that, hey guys, the moon moves in an eclipse with the sun. I never knew that. Wow. So next time you see or think of an eclipse, that came from a first stated by Catholic Albert Brzezinski, and he's number 23 on the list. 27, Giovanni Demosi Sassian, 1625 through 1712. He forced to observe 4 of Saturn's moons, and is the co-discoverer of the Great Red Spot on Jupiter. Wow, So next time, if you have a telescope and you can see it through Jupiter or Saturn through the telescope, another lay Catholic discovered 4 of the Saturn's moons, as well as the great big red spot on Jupiter, which makes Jupiter famous. That's what you think about Jupiter. You think about that big red spot. So he discovered that. Guy D. Chalaca, C. 1300 through 1368, number 32, the most immense surging of the Middle Ages. And the Middle Ages, not a lot of stuff that we have as we have a lot of records, I guess you should say, from the Middle Ages, but we know that Guy de Chalaca was the most immense surgeon of that time, which that says a lot. And it just going on the list. I kind of want to stick to the ones I saw, but the more you read this, the more the more you're like, wow, I didn't know that happened. Number 48. Oh boy. Bartolomeo Segui, 1500 to 1574, one of the founders of human anatomy. And I'm not big into that kind of stuff, but I know what it is, or know what it's about. I've done a lot of classes on human anatomies, so one of the founders of that. So that's huge. And I lost the one of the ones that I really wanted to share. I guess I can say it. The printing press. Someone founded the printing press, and I lost what number that was on. But printing press, the founder of the printing press, which we all know, that was a huge part of American Revolution. Benjamin Franklin was huge into printing presses. Everyone still reads the paper today. If you're in any sports, for your school, or if you do stuff in your community, you probably in the paper. So that printing press came from another Catholic inventor way back when. So, 84, let's do a couple more. 84, when Logic, 1781 through 1826, physician who invented the stethoscope. And Anton Levensor, 1743 to 1794, father of modern chemistry. If you're big into chemistry, I am not, but if you're big into chemistry, or wonder what chemistry is, Anton made that. I'm not saying with this one, Gina, Mong McConnell, Macomb, 1874 to 1937, father of wireless technology and radio transmission. And what would the world look like today without wireless technology and radio transmission? I have no idea. But he's the father of that. So, like I said, very, very cool stuff. I highly recommend you going through the list. I mean, we not have to remember them all because it is 150 people, but remember, like I did, try to remember the ones that really stand out to you, that you're most intrigued by, the most you're interested in, like the wireless technology, the radio transmitter, the printing press. That's what I'm into, So try to get to know them, and then when someone asks you, "Wow, Catholics, you guys kind of sit there, you don't really make anything, you don't really, you know, advertise science, this and that, blah blah," and give them the story, because there you go, Catholic apologetics, like Gary McCune and Ken Litchfield does. You gotta defend the church, and these people were lay people who were Catholic, who were inventors. So, yeah, very, very cool stuff. Like I said, both articles will be in the comments, so please check them out. Of course, not my work. I just looked them up and thought that was pretty cool. And like I said, the Catholic Bulletproof vest was just published, so very, very cool stuff right there for episode 60. So, that concludes our show today. Thank you very much. I'm trying to keep the show shorter. More great stuff to come on Catholic Table Talk, so make sure you're following all of our platforms for breaking news, because we do a lot more than just these shows. We have much more stuff, new stuff coming out. So please share it with friends and stay up to date with our show, because if you miss a couple weeks, it's kind of maybe hard to catch back up to what we're doing. So really thank you for your continued support, though, and more great speakers to come. We have big name speakers coming back on the show in the coming weeks, and new speakers as well. So please stay tuned for that. Otherwise, God bless you and your family, and God willing, we'll see you next week on a brand new show, episode 61. What's it going to be about? Well, you gotta have to tune in for that one to find out. William Sauber saying so long at Catholic Table Talk Podcast. This is the podcast where everything Catholic is on the table.